I was asked to speak, to represent the Ner Moshe of Kodshim. We've been taking quite a beating tonight. It's really difficult to stand up and to talk to Rei Hesped and to Rei Shvach about a Gaver Rabbah that spent 80 plus years being Beireach Min HaKavod. Every one of us Talmidim remembers how the Rosh Hashiva was almost allergic to being made a big deal of, to be talking about him. And I think it's ironic that the Rosh Hashiva, the way he lived his life in Olam Hazeh, is the way he went to Olam Haba. This past week I was going around telling my Chaverim, notifying them about this Shloshim, and I was nishtaimim to see how many of them did not even hear that the Rosh Hashiva was nifter. He went so quietly in Bein Hazmanim, a time that the Olam HaYeshiva spread by Arba Kamfei Sa'aretz, and they didn't hear about it. It's mamish the way he would have wanted it. No Betel Torah, no Taram. And then I spoke to Reb Chananya, and he told me that on the day of the Levaya, there was a demonstration, a major demonstration in Yerushalayim against the Gzeiras Giyas B'nai Yeshiva. And the police told the Mishpacha that if you want to bring the Rosh Hashiva L'Kvura, you have to rush. And they rushed, and they went quickly to bring the Rosh Hashiva to Kvura. And the Levaya was not done, Lefi Chvoidei, Lefi the Erech, Lefi the Gadlus of the Rosh Hashiva, but it's mamish, the way he would have wanted it. And I believe that perhaps greater than any of his accomplishments, the biggest pella was how he was matzliach to turn the spotlight away from himself. When we were in Yeshiva B'Shaitoi, we all recognized, we knew that we were in the Sviva of Gadlus. We witnessed his tremendous hasmada. We knew that he was a prolific Mechaber Svarim. We were all being nana, we were enjoying the tremendous yeshiva that he built. We saw his beautiful mishpacha that he had. And yet at the same time, somehow he was matzliach to make us not focus on his Gadlus. He made us comfortable to schmooze with him, to talk things over with him. He used this tremendous sense of humor to make us comfortable. And this might be the biggest pella of his atzlachas amongst all the other atzlachas that he had. L'chayra Yakra the Shichvi, hard to imagine that Rosh Hashiva would want us to talk about him. But Yakra the Chaya, there is hundreds and hundreds of Talmidim, years and years of building a yeshiva. And l'chayra, that's the inyan of the Hesped tonight. The Mishnah in Avis says, Shleish Ksarim Heim, Keser Malchus, Keser Kahuna, Keser Torah, V'Keser Shem Tov Oila Al Gabein. And the Mefarshim all work to understand why the Mishnah starts off with the number Shleisha and then seems to list off 4 Ksarim, and many Svarim say the same shot. When a person is Zoicha to the Keser Kuna, Keser Torah, and Keser Malchus, it carries with it a tremendous risk and danger that such a person could become self-centered and begin to think he deserves the glory and it's his credit. The Keser Shem Tov that comes through the Midah of Anova is not a separate Keser. It's a Keser that has to go together with the other one. The Keser of Anivos is what gives the other Ksarim their Chashivos. It's Meroimim them, and it's what gives them their shine. The Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Avraham Zatzal, was Zeicha to these Gimel Ksarim. He radiated the Keser of Malchus. He embodied the Keser of Torah and Keser Kahuna. But at the same time, what made it so ni'imistic and so amazing to watch was the Keser Anova that went together with all of those 3. And I want to discuss each one of these Ksarim separately. The Keser Malchus, we know the Yeshiva built a Malucha, years and years of building a beautiful yeshiva, hundreds and hundreds of Talmidim, Talmidei Chachamim, Masmidim. Many of them went on to become Marbitzei Torah. Many of them are pillars in their community. And usually a person that has his own yeshiva becomes possessive of his malucha. By the Yeshiva Rebbe Avraham comes to mind the Gemara in Saita Daf Mem that describes the tremendous anivus of Rebbe Avo. Rebbe Avo had a Meturgeman that sat over his shir, and one day the wife of the Meturgeman told Rebbe Avo's wife that my husband is as great as your husband. He could say the same shir as your husband, and the only reason why he bends down and he listens to Rebbe Avo is out of kavod for Rebbe Avo. And Rabbi Avo's wife was tremendously insulted, and she came home and she told her husband what happened. And Rabbi Avo said, "Mai nafkalach mino, miniu minei eskalas iloi." Who cares? Who gets the credit? The ikar is there should be nachas for the Borei Olam. And the Gemara goes on to describe how Rabbi Avo was nismana to become a Rosh Hashiva, but he saw another yid, Rabbi Abba ben Akko, that needed the parnasa. He had chayvis, and he convinced them to be mamana him for Rosh Hashiva. So we just heard right now from Rabbi Rub, we were in a yeshiva where the Rosh Hashiva sheared and took on shutfim, sheared his malucha with other Rosh Yeshivas, and he told us in Shmuz, and he told us privately that it came from his Messiah from Panovich, that there should be many different angles, many different views, many different ashkafas, and that's the healthy way. Miniu minei yiskalas ilo. The Yeshiva wanted that he shouldn't be the only shita, the only ashkafa. He was not possessive of his malucha, as long as there's yiskalas ilo. And when we were in yeshiva, there was some bachrim that went over to the yeshiva of Abraham, and they had ideas for him how to make his malucha even bigger. Should be closed certain zmanim. He shouldn't accept bachrim from certain yeshivas. And the yeshiva did not. It was not his language. B'chai did not understand what they wanted. I should turn down bachrim that want to steig so that I could have a bigger malucha. It was totally not his sprach. It was the keser malucha that went together with the keser of Anova, the keser of Shem Tov. When it comes to the keser of Kahuna, the yeshiva served as Rosh Hashiva for decades. Gewaldige shiurim, gewaldige shmuzen. And at the same time, he took a tremendous interest that us American bachrim should have what we need to steig, down to that the food should be served in the right way. And he also had a tremendous leiv tov, and he was very perceptive to what each individual bacher needed. When I was in yeshiva, there was a bacher that his family was going through a financial crisis. And this bacher went over to the Yeshiva of Abraham, and he told him that he believes that his parents are not going to be paying tuition next month, and he wanted to know if he could come back. And the Yeshiva told him, Avada, what's the question? Why is a bacher talking about tuition? You're a ben bayis by us. You're a ben yeshiva, come back. And this bacher went back to the Beis Medrash, and an hour later, another bacher taps him on the shoulder. The Yeshiva of Abraham wants to talk to you outside. And he came back outside, and the Yeshiva pulled out of his pocket a large amount of money, and he gave it to him. I don't remember what the number was, but he gave him that money, and he told him, this money is for your tzrachim, your daily tzrachim. And this bacher was so nischazik, not just from the practicality, that the yeshiva was perceptive from his question, to realize that he needs the money for day-to-day expenses, but the fact that the yeshiva stood behind him. And many times, the yeshiva would do that for his own Talmud. After all, the Talmud's success, Hatzlacha, is the yeshiva's success. But a friend of mine who's a big Marbitz Torah here in Lakewood, and he heard that I was speaking tonight, he called me up, and he told me to say over that he was a bacher in the Mir. And one day, he was going through a tkufa, and one day on Purim, he met the Rosh Hashiva, and he was drunk. And from what he told the Rosh Hashiva of Abraham, the Rosh Hashiva realized that he needed chizuk. And the next day after Purim, someone came over to him and gave him a note that had the Rosh Hashiva's cell phone number on it, and told him, the Rosh Hashiva of Abraham wants to talk to you. So he called him up, and he told him, I want you to come to me every night and learn with me b'chavrusa. And the Yeshiva of Avraham paid for his bus ticket. For 6 months, they learned for 4 hours a night. And this yid today is a big Marbitz Torah in Lakewood, and he told me the same sprach that some of the people here tonight said, I don't know where I would be today if not for the Yeshiva of Avraham. And when he came to his chasana, he gave him a bracha under the chuppah. He was not related, and he was not from his yeshiva. And he told me also that when he was so successful with him, so he became his go-to person where he sent American bachrim to. He had another friend that he sent from the Mir, was also going through a tkufa. And that person says the same memra today. He's a big matzliach tega asken, and he says, I don't know where I would be today if not for the Yeshiva of Avraham. And he also gave him a bracha on his chuppah. And there were others like that he told me about. And these are just a few stories that I'm aware of, but the idea that the Yeshiva had a leiv toiv and was there for every yid and every Talmud, it was the Keser Kahuna together with the Keser of Anava. And when it comes to the Keser Torah, every one of us was aware of his tremendous hasmada, locked away in his office for hours, harving on the sugya and writing his svarim. And the Yeshiva himself was machshav his own hasmada. Someone told me that he was sent as a shliach by the Yeshiva to give his sefer to an Adam Gadol, the Avraham. And the Gadol accepted the sefer b'ahava, and he gave what he thought was a compliment. He said, wow, Rabbi Avraham has such a gringa zeit to be mechadash. It's an easy time saying chedushim. And when this shliach told me that he went back to Rabbi Avraham and he told him this compliment, he did not accept it happily. He said 15 hours a day of hasmada, harving and sugyas, is called a gringa zeit, making chedushim. Do you know anybody else who can learn for 15 hours a day and not make chedushim? He did not accept it. And yet at the same time, when he did have something to celebrate, it was done by Ifan Tznius. I remember when we were in yeshiva, he made a siyum on the Sefer Avraham on Sefer HaMitzvahs. It was a thick Sefer, years of work. And how did he celebrate it? He came down, I remember he was radiating simcha, he was all excited, and he served ice cream after supper that day. 5 minutes after that, back to learning and back to his next svara. Mamish the Keser Torah, together with the Keser of Anivus. Nofla Teres Rishenu, we lost this gewaldige crown. Oino Lanu, it's a tremendous aveda. As Talmidim, we have to learn from his Dahiben Drachim. We have to make sure that we use out our life the way he taught us. He used every single minute. It's amazing to think of how much he accomplished in his life from all different directions. And I also want to add, with all the anivas and with all not looking for the limelight like we heard tonight, but he was a man of courage, and when there was a pirza, he stood in the way, and he was the one that went against it. And I want to finish off with one more nakuda. One of the things that the Yeshiva did without fanfare and without asking for credit and without complaining is that he fundraised for the Yeshiva. He traveled to America. His leiv was with the Talmidim, his leiv was with his svarim. But he went and he did it, and we used to know he was going, and he came back, all smiles. We never heard a word of complaint. Now that the Yeshiva is not here anymore, the Yeshiva is still Rovitz, Tachas, and Oil. And it's not why we came. We came here for the covet of the Yeshiva. But as Talmidim, I feel I have to say that if we want to make a Ili Neshama, we want to be Hoylech B'drachav, and we want to do a Chesed Shal Emes with the Rosh Yeshiva, then we should take on ourselves pledges to help the Yeshiva from the $500,000 chayv outside our pledge cards. If the Olam could take $500, something like that, to fundraise, it would be a tremendous chus and a tremendous Ili Neshama for the Yeshiva. The Yeshiva should be a good better for his mishpacha and for the entire Yeshiva. Yehi Zachrei Baruch.